All
Okay,
right.
so I'm recording now. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Acclaimed, wherever you are listening or watching this. Today, I have a very special lady with me who has been a fan of the podcast as well. She just told me she listened to, I don't even know how many, probably 100 episodes or something, and who's also been a client of ours and a woman who's gone through the program or probably still going through our group coaching program, and she's here with us to share her story and her journey. Shannon, welcome to Claimed. I'm so excited to have you here today, and again, thank you. I know this might be quite a vulnerable, a tender spot for a lot of women coming on and sharing their story, but I really appreciate it, and I know that the women listening also appreciate it as well. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and how did you find about my work?
So, I am a veterinarian, 34, also a clinical scientist. My full-time job, I work for a medical device company as a clinical scientist. And then I have my own business that I run on one weekend day doing house calls as a veterinarian. And I live in the Bay Area, California, and have a little 14-year-old pup. And that's pretty much it. And then I found this program. Oh gosh, it's kind of a long story. So, probably a little more than a year and a half ago, I was in a long-term relationship, pretty unhappy with where I was. Um, we argued quite a bit. It was just wasn't great. Pretty unhappy. So I started to turn inward, look a little bit inward, to see how I was contributing to the relationship not working. So that's kind of how I started my self-discovery journey. I just started reading personal development books, and that was, I want to say, early 2019. And then I started getting into some personal development conferences. And at one of the conferences, there was this mention of masculine and feminine polarity in relationships. And it wasn't necessarily a new subject for me, but something that I had not explored before. And just everything that I was hearing kind of resonated. And it was almost like a light bulb went off. And I was just like, I think that this is a big piece that has been missing from a lot of my previous relationships. So, being the lifelong learner that I am, I did further research on masculine and feminine polarity. I read a couple of articles, went for a walk one day. I like to listen to podcasts sometimes on my walks, and just typed in the search bar in Apple Podcasts, um, feminine polarity or masculine polarity, something along those lines. And one of your episodes was the first one that popped up. And I don't remember the man's name, but I do remember the context of the podcast. It was speaking about women's desire to be deeply penetrated. I don't know if you remember who that was, but
Oh, this subject is continuously talked about on many
yeah.
episodes, so I can't remember exactly. Yeah,
But
okay.
anyway, everything just made complete sense, and I was kind of drawn to hear more. So I listened to maybe like 20 or 30 more of your podcasts, and I was just like, I need to get closer to this woman because she, like, everything that you're speaking about on your podcast just really resonates. And it seems like not necessarily a missing piece, but something that I need more development on. So that's how I reached out to you.
Beautiful. I see in your background, Shannon, you have the book The Boy Crisis. Is that,
Yeah,
did you get that as part when you were going through the program or listening to some of the episodes?
I did. I just purchased that one recently. I went back to one of the modules. Like, oh, I definitely need to read this one a few weeks ago. So I haven't gotten to it yet, but I've read a lot of personal development books over the last year and a half, probably close to 35 or 40. And they've all been really helpful in some way, even if I just took like something very small away from them. So yeah, it's been a journey, and learned a lot from books, learned a lot from your program, from conferences.
Yeah, beautiful. So tell me what I'm curious about, because you talk about, this feminine masculine polarity was like an aha moment or a light bulb, and you started listening to my podcast and really, were really resonating and obviously wanted to learn more. So that's why you signed up for a discovery call. How would you describe, I guess, the situation before we started working together in terms of, through that lens of polarity, how would you describe what was actually wrong or not working?
Yeah, so I was definitely showing up in my masculine. I was pretty much raised to achieve and do, just raised in a masculine way. So I guess I was brought up to, be in masculine energy. Both of my parents have a lot of masculine energy. And throughout all of my 20s, essentially, I was in either college or veterinary school, and I was just doing and achieving all of the time. So, yeah, I had a lot of masculine energy. I was attracting feminine partners, partners who were more narcissistic, and it was kind of a struggle. I really didn't like to be in my masculine, but I didn't really know how to be feminine anymore, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And why was that a problem?
Because, well, I am a deeply feminine woman, and I was just running on masculine energy a lot. Always in my head, had a lot of anxiety throughout my 20s, which I was able to, get under control with a lot of different tools that I had learned over the years. But yeah, I was operating from a masculine place. I was bringing a lot of masculine energy to my relationships. I wanted to, be in control of my environment and my life, and it just felt so overwhelming. So I knew that something just had to change.
Mm-hmm. And when you say I'm a deeply feminine woman, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I guess it brings me back to when I was a little girl, and, who that little girl is naturally. And I always just wanted to be a dancer, and I love to wear dresses and play with makeup and Barbies and whatnot. But it was tough in the household, I guess, that I grew up in to do that, because my parents were more in their masculine, and so it was hard to like mirror any feminine energy that was coming from my family, because there wasn't a lot. So I was, I wanted to dance when I was younger, but I ended up playing sports, and so just really strayed far from who I was, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, and when you talk about don't know how to be feminine, didn't know how to be feminine anymore, always in my head, anxiety, overwhelming, in my masculine a lot. I'm just curious, from your experience now, looking back, how did that contribute to your dynamics with men not working out? Like, why was that a problem in your dynamics with men?
Yeah, so I was attracting feminine men because I was bringing mass to the table. And I also, so with bringing feminine men to the table, me bringing my masculine, just the dynamic wasn't working, and it wasn't really what I wanted, but it's all that I really knew. So, gosh, it's hard to describe, I
So give me an
guess.
example. So when you talk about that, I was in my masculine, he was in his feminine. Like, how did that
Yeah.
play out practically in a relationship?
So I would take the lead on a lot of things. I would plan vacations, pay for vacations, take care of a lot of the bills and the financial aspects of things, um, where we were going to live, that sort of thing. So just a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
um, I was definitely leading a lot of the relationships.
Mm-hmm. And that didn't feel good.
It did not. I mean,
Yeah.
it's what I knew though.
Yeah.
My mom is definitely like that. In my parents' relationship, she definitely takes lead. So that's kind of what I modeled. That the
Mm-hmm.
woman should be the one in charge, paying for everything and uh, making all of the decisions. It's not what I wanted to do, but I didn't really know any differently.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about how a different life looks like in a moment. Just give me a second, Shannon. I'm just going to close my window because I
Sure.
realized can you hear the cars in the background or not really?
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
Maybe it's me. But anyways, I'll close it. 1 second.
Okay.
All right. So here we are. You doing a lot of personal growth work and reading a lot and getting introduced to this concept of polarity. And through books and conferences, and obviously, my podcast, you realized that this might be it, and you resonated, you wanted to learn more. And so you signed up for a discovery call with us. And so I'm curious, Shannon, what happened on that discovery call and why did you say yes, in terms of investing in yourself and really starting this journey with us?
Yeah, so one thing that I do remember from our discovery call that sticks out a lot to me was you had asked me a few times when we were chatting. I don't remember exactly what it was we were chatting about, but you asked me how I felt, how it made me feel, and I couldn't really come up with the words for it. And it was something that I had been working on um, in therapy before, but I still couldn't really come up with the words, the feeling words. Um, so yeah, that was something that definitely really stuck out to me. I was really struggling to be in touch with myself emotionally and express how I feel. Um, so I decided to sign up for the program um, because just from what I was listening to on the podcast and when we were chatting and the discovery call, just everything resonated with me. And I knew that this was an area that I needed help. I needed some further development. And I didn't really want to have to take, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 months to read 10 books and try to figure it out on my own. I wanted a little bit of a faster way to to get to the end goal. Um, and at the time on our discovery call, I had just started my house call practice as well. So money was a little bit tight at that time. I had no idea what I was getting into financially from a business perspective.
Mm.
So I was a little bit hesitant at first. And then, we were chatting about it. And I think it was just a point where I looked back on the personal development conferences that I spent quite a bit of money on the year before. And I was just like, I never regretted spending that money. It was a lot of money that was spent for sure. And I didn't regret a single dollar. And I pay it 10 times over. So at the end of the day, I was just like, investing in myself is the best thing that I can do. And I have proof of that from the previous year. So
Mm-hmm.
when it came down to actually being able to, pay for the course, I was just like, you know what, I'll make it work. So that's how I started.
Yeah, beautiful. I love how you talk about this because really, investing in yourself is something that we so we get a lot of women on discovery calls from different walks of life who've never done this before, never invested in themselves before on that level. So it seems like in your case, you really had that experience before by going to conferences. So you know the power of, if I invest in myself, and I never regretted it. So you kind of had that reference there. And I love that you're saying that, because when we have discussions with women, and it's not a cheap program. Like, this is not a $500 program or even $1,000 program, just to put it out there. We actually don't talk much about, you won't find information on how much is it, what are the details, because we make sure that we get on a call with every single woman that is interested, so that we can find out what is her current situation, what is her desired situation, whether we can help. And once we, quote unquote, diagnose that we can help, then we go into this whole discussion about, what the program is about, and answering all of your questions. And then when it comes to the money, or let's say to the investment, it's really about helping a woman. For some women, it's an easy decision. For a lot, it's not. Like, you were starting a business, Shannon. I remember our conversation now. I think we had to kind of chat about that. What's more, what is the priority, and what do we focus on, and things like that. So yeah, but investing in yourself, and I always tell women, when you do invest in yourself on such a level, you also start to take this area of your life or this journey very, very seriously. And you also are surrounded by a community of women who also invested in themselves on the same level. So we're all here to experience the result. And the tools that you get and the transformation that you get it does not only match the investment, but, well, my hope, and I feel like, I'm just looking at your post, Shannon, that you posted a couple of weeks ago about your journey, is not only worth the investment, but also surpasses that investment. That's definitely my intention with this program. So thanks for sharing that, because I feel like this is so important. And some of the stuff, as you said, like, we get a lot of information from the books and stuff like that, but most women sign up because they do want a faster, because you can do this on your own. Like, I did it on my own, but it took me bloody 3 years, to really figure it out. And I was working in the personal growth field, and I was exposed to a lot of different things. And so a lot of women don't have the 3 years, or more. And really, it's like, can you afford, even like, sometimes I talk to so many women who, like, literally, like, they're done. They're at the end of the rope, not necessarily desperate, but it's like, here's a solution, and it's going to take you to where you want to get, in about 10 weeks or maybe longer. I know your post is after 5 months in the program, which is fine, because every woman is different and her journey is different, and we respect that. But, if you want the support, the clarity, and just to get rid of that headache that so many women have in dating and with men, well, this is the path, because I always say you either pay with money or you pay it with time. So you really have to decide. Do you have the time? No, then you're going to invest in yourself. Do you have the money? I mean, if you have the time, then yes, you do it. But if you don't have the time, then, as you said, I love this attitude of I'll make it work.
Yeah,
So
one point there. I didn't start out my journey by investing a lot of money in myself. I was really hesitant about it. I remember the first personal development sort of audio program that I bought. It was about $250, and even that felt like, man, I just couldn't fathom, like, spending that money on something that's not really, like, tangible, that you can hold in your hands. It's not a material, right? It's an experience. And I was just like, gosh, that's such a lot of money. And so I did the $250, and then I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, the changes that I saw were amazing. And then I went to a conference that was about $700. And then, I was spending a lot more money than that after I really dove in and saw just the incredible changes within myself. And it's such, like, I couldn't imagine. I like I said before, I paid the money like 10 times over.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. I totally resonate with that, because, okay, well, my story, Shannon, is like, I'm a girl who comes from Eastern Europe, who first of all, from the poorest country of Europe, and in Europe, and my money story goes so deep and so long through generations and everything. And actually, I ended up working for a personal growth company where I had a lot of access for free to a lot of the resources and programs that I also went through. And I was the girl that actually, even a few years ago, I think things have started shifting for me when I actually met String, my future husband, where I was the girl before what I had a full hard drive of programs that were amazing and they were giving to me for free. And guess what? They were just sitting there for years. I never went through any of them. And I was also the girl that wanted to get stuff online or whatever in the cheapest way possible, like torrenting or whatever. Like, it was just crazy. I never invested in myself. Everything I knew was from there. And then and obviously I did some of the programs because I was super interested in polarity and men and, working on my belief system, but a lot of it wasn't. So my biggest transformation, I think, in terms of who I have become and, in terms of business and career and myself, because they're always intertwined, was when I met String. And he was the guy, like, when I heard that he paid, oh my God, it was some ridiculous thing. I think he paid $15,000 for or $30,000 for like a marketing program that would get him. I was like, what? Like, this was just out of my reality. But then he said, yeah, after I went through it, I landed my first $15,000 client in a couple of months. And so these numbers were just so ridiculous to me. And then it all started small. It started with like a $50 program, then a $300 program. And then, in the last year and a half, I was the one, well, we did it together because we run the business together. I was the one, we started with also $5,000, then $11,000 in a mastermind. And then this year we've basically put down 30 grand to into ourselves and the business. And so if you would ask me a couple of years ago, these numbers would just be insane. But when you do that for yourself, it's something that, and I always tell women, it just catapults you from your current reality. And it doesn't have to be that amount of money, obviously, but that's what I tell women. Imagine when you spend that kind of money on yourself, how different are you, number one, treating yourself and looking at yourself in this area of your life? Your commitment level shoots up. And besides, when there's a community also, because, we have an amazing community in our program. And, when I paid $30,000 for a mastermind, I was literally on every single call that I had every week, and I'm still in that program, right? I was with people who think differently, who think on a completely different level, that for me, and that's what you technically pay for, right? Like, you pay for access to that level of information, insight, mentality, perspective. And probably, I don't know if it was for you, Shannon, are you seeing that a lot of women, my belief system about men and about the world is very different from the women who enter. And then we're all kind of in this together. And when you work with someone, we're surrounded constantly by women who are like, that is your reality. It doesn't have to be. That story is not yours anymore. And so that's what you're investing. You're investing in yourself, but also in that up-leveling that happens as soon as you do that. Because people who invest in themselves on that level think differently. Something is different. So that's what you're actually paying for. Was that your experience as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, let's talk about your aha moments in the program and then what happened. So if you want to share maybe 2 or 3, and I know, this journey is so multi-layered and you go in circles and you come back. And I know, Shannon, just like with every woman who's in the program, it's not always, 3 steps forward constantly. There is 2 steps backwards, and we all have our own things. But yeah, I'm just curious about, maybe you can share 2 or 3 biggest aha moments that happened for you in the program and your journey.
Yeah, well, my journey in the program has definitely not been linear. One thing that was really cool that happened, I would say about a month and a half after I started the program, I think late last year, late December, a friend and I met up to put together 2021 vision boards. And I had a little bit of a moment when I was working through one of the modules and discovering my wild woman. And I was, doing my feminine flow, thinking about my wild woman. This was like the drop in that I was doing. And I think a couple of days later, I was in the process of moving. I go to get my vision board from the back of my closet, and so this was probably 3 or 4 months after I had made the vision board, and I hadn't looked at it. And I looked at the vision board and I see my wild woman right there. And I was like, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
This is amazing. Like, I totally manifested it. Was this woman on the beach with the wind blowing. She was just wearing sheer white linen and looking out at the water from the beach. And to me, it symbolizes freedom. So that was a really cool moment. Another one was more recently when I had finished the program. I have also been doing a lot of work outside of the program as well. I've still been, reading a lot of personal development books and doing some other programs as well. Or one other, I should say, not many. Yeah, so I had not, when I was in the program, when I started the program, I was not speaking to my dad for about a year or so. And I think that came up on our discovery call. And you had said to me, having a relationship with your father, healing that relationship is super important, especially for your relationships moving forward. And it wasn't the first time that I had heard that. And I knew it was something that I had to do, but I was in a space where I wasn't yet comfortable, and I couldn't really understand why. And I think it just had a lot to do with getting to know myself more, and my needs as an individual, separate from what my parents' expectations are of me and society's expectations and whatnot. So just really getting to know myself on a very deep level. So yeah, when we had our discovery call, I was definitely not ready. And in one of the modules, that was an activity, was to, chat with your parents about how they were raised. And that was actually my first drop in on our group call. I had brought that up. I was like, hey, Anna, I know this is an activity that we have to do, but I haven't spoken to my dad in a year, and I am not at a place right now where I feel like I want to. I did deep down inside, like I do. I did want a relationship with my dad, but I wasn't ready. I didn't know how to approach it or handle it in a way that would feel good to me. So yeah, it took me a while. I worked through the program. I was doing some work on my own as well, chatting with a lot of the girls and in the claimed program. And I was doing my flow every day, at least 15 minutes, sometimes 30. So I was really, really doing it. And a lot within me just opened up. It was kind of like a door that was shut. I always visualize like a trap door that's been shut for a really long time that I was able to finally open up. And a lot of like the really thick cement walls that I had built up around my heart had started to come down over the 5 months of doing this program. And I finally got to a space where I felt like I wanted to reach out to my dad and just have a relationship with him. I still felt a little bit nervous about it because I didn't feel 100% ready. But so I gave him a call on Father's Day, and it was the first time that we had spoken in over a year. And it was a really nice conversation. And it felt really good. And so that has, opened up the door for a relationship with my dad, one that feels good to me, and works for both of us. And it's certainly not perfect. There's a lot more, work that I want to do there in that regard. But yeah, that's been a really big moment for me because, prior to the program, the distance between us was just growing, and it was going in the opposite direction of what I really wanted it to go deep down inside. So yeah, this program kind of, just opened my heart a lot. And I think that a lot of it had to do with really understanding the male journey. And I thank you for kind of opening my eyes to that. And, through that within the program, just understanding more of the male journey, it's helped me be a little bit more empathetic to my dad and how he has lived life. And I actually went to visit his sister, my aunt, who I'm pretty close with, before I had reached out to him. And, I was asking her, I was like, hey, can you just tell me a little bit about my dad's childhood so I can understand better who he is as a person and where he came from. So yeah, I did a lot of work in trying to understand the male journey, and I'm still working on that because when I started the program, I didn't really have a lot of respect for men at all, to be honest. And it breaks my heart and like makes me sad to even think about the feelings that like I did have prior to this program. So I'm just very grateful for that.
Can I ask what was maybe one thing that you could share? And if it's too personal, that's totally fine. But I'm really curious about when you started kind of, you're talking to your aunt about your dad's childhood and that. How did that help you rekindle that relationship with him? Or what understanding or perspective did that provide for you?
Yeah, so one thing that really stands out about our conversation was just kind of his demeanor as a kid. She explained to me that he was a little bit pouty and needy, which he still is. But, I really just sat back and thought, like, maybe he just really wanted love and he wasn't getting it in the way that he needed. So just knowing that really made me have a little bit more empathy for how he is now. Because he's still that way. He's still a little bit pouty and needy. And sometimes it gets to the point where it's a little bit overwhelming, but he really just wants to be loved. And he doesn't really know how to go about doing it in a way that's mutually beneficial for the people in his life. So just knowing that information allowed me to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, he's being really needy right now, and that's really just him trying to say that he is not feeling loved or wants to feel loved. And obviously that's not my responsibility, but it does make me a little bit more empathetic to some of his actions and everything. So
yeah. So where's your relationship now? I mean, after, you reached out, and do you see each other often, and how does that work?
yeah, so my family lives in New York. I'm in California. The last time I was home was in April. And I was back home for my grandmother's funeral in April, and I, up to that point, hadn't spoken to my dad. So that was the first interaction we had in a while. But we've had a couple of phone calls since then, and we text every now and then. But yeah, it's been much better, our relationship, and he's been a lot less needy. But yeah, it's just overall it's good. It does have some challenges still. but it's moving in the direction that I would like it to move. So,
Mm-hmm. How do you feel?
um, I feel a lot of love, um, and I feel really good. I feel happy. Um, I feel just a lot of joy knowing that I can have a good relationship with my dad.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, my journey has been very similar. That's why, when women talk about their dads, I'm like, oh God, that it's a whole can of worms. But I had a very similar experience to you, Shannon, and that's what I always talk about. It all started with me. And I remember your drop in and our coaching session around that. That was pretty heavy for you. But I mean, for me, the same thing happened when I realized that my dad, like, he couldn't give me more than he did because he didn't have anything, any love. And when I also did the discovery of his story and what he went through as a child, but also, for example, with, losing his wife and the mother of his children, which is my mother, when he was he was String's age. When his wife passed away in a tragic accident, he was left with two girls, 8 and 12. Like, what kind of a mind fuck is that? So through this journey and this process, when you really look at and I think we talked about this exact same subject on our coaching call, when you're able to get yourself out of the drama and the story, and a lot of the times the blame or maybe the guilt, or that personal, he's my father and this is what happened to me and here's how I feel, when you're able to distance yourself from that and actually look at what actually happened and understand and develop that empathy for, well, yes, he's my dad, but he's also a human, and look at him through a lens of not he's my dad and therefore, because obviously there's so much emotion, so much attachment there, but actually look at a man, just a man who has his own story, and this is why he's the way he is. And of course, we all know that, I mean, at least I think most parents, although there is also theory that, the mother who abandons her child, on the side of the road or whatever, or at an orphanage, also has the best intentions, because at that point in time, she does the best that she can with all the resources available to her. So yeah, that's quite deep and quite profound, that journey, and I'm really proud of you, Shannon. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I guess my question here is, how did that, because we started with our conversation on Discovery Call in terms of healing your relationship with your dad would lead to healing your relationship with men. So let's talk about the men now. How do you feel like that might have contributed to your dynamics with men, and then in general, what is the result of you going through the journey and Claimed and your dynamics with men?
Yeah, so that part of my journey definitely has not been linear. When I started the program and I got to, working through some limiting beliefs and whatnot, I recognized that there was a lot of work that needed to be done there. And I decided to take a break from dating for, I think it was about 2 months or so, 3 months. I didn't really feel like it was a good time. I just had a lot of, stuff that came up that I needed to go through. And I've dabbled in dating here and there ever since. And over the course of 5 months, it's just been really interesting to watch the type of man that I've been attracting. More in the beginning, I think I was still attracting more feminine men. But now I'm definitely attracting more masculine men who, are planning the dates. They have like a week in advance, have a time, a date, and a place set. Yeah, just really great guys. So, but I'm still working through some of my own stuff, I guess you could say, limiting beliefs and whatnot. And that's where I say my journey hasn't been as linear with the dating process. So I kind of go in and go out, but of the dating scene. But overall, when I am out there dating, the quality of men that I'm attracting is just so different from what it used to be. And it's been really interesting to watch. The more and more I continue in this program, the better quality men that I'm attracting, which has been really cool.
Oh, this is like the best testimonial ever. I'm just going to cut that little piece and then put it everywhere. Because that is really the promise of the program, Shannon. Once you go through this journey of transformation and beliefs and its deep excavation and work, the promise is that you're going to start to attract different types of men, which is what's happening to you, which is amazing. And I know it's not linear, and it never is. You know, this journey is never linear, because it's like one step forward, two step backwards, and then it's like, all right, here we go again, you know. But that's beautiful that you're sharing that. I love that.
Yeah.
So, and I love that you say the more you do the work, the more you do the program, the more the better the men are. And obviously, Shannon, you have all the support that you need in the program, and whenever you have questions or anything, you know that, you know, we will support you with whatever you need. So I guess at this point, we're going to wrap up. And my last question that I ask all women who come and share their story is, if there's a woman listening to this or watching this that has been, or that is actually in the same situation you were before. So, for example, she's the one running on masculine engines, attracting these guys who do not pay, you know, where she has to make all the decisions, and she's overwhelmed, she's exhausted, and she's listening to this, looking for a solution, trying to figure out what perhaps she's doing wrong, what is the path. Why would you recommend perhaps signing up for a free discovery call, which is at girlskill.com/apply, and then joining us and joining the Claim program?
Yeah, well, I love this program. I mean, the group of women in this program, sorry, are so supportive, and coaches are so supportive. I love the group calls. Just everything about the program has helped me become the best version of myself. And, you know, I had been working on that for a while before the Claimed program, but it's kind of just, it's moved a lot faster with the help and guidance of a coach and a group of women that have been supporting me. So if you're in the same position and you're thinking about doing a discovery call or the coaching program, but are a little bit hesitant, you can either do it and start to see progress quickly, or it's going to take a lot longer. And I know that from experience. So, you know, my advice would be to obviously do the program, because it's amazing. The group of women involved are incredibly supportive, and it's really been transformational for me. So.
Beautiful. Thank you, Shannon. And of course, the journey continues with us, with you and us, and all of that. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Shannon. I really, really appreciate you coming and sharing your story. And I've been, you know, when women like you post their journeys, like for me personally, I know it just continues to, I guess, be evidence of the fact that I personally am on the right path, and the tools and everything that, you know, we teach and stand behind and claimed is the right way to go. So I'm deeply grateful. I'm deeply grateful that you actually, you know, committed and you're doing the work. And that's the most important thing. Women ask me all the time, what's your success rate? First question I ask, well, how do we define success, right? And the success is, as we talked about, that the quality of men you're going to start to attract by the end of the journey, even before, is going to drastically change. But also, you know, if you do the work, there's no way you cannot see the results that you're looking for. And so your dedication to this process, Shannon, has just been very, inspiring for me. And that's why I do what I do, because of women like you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so grateful for this program. So
Beautiful. All right, Shannon, thanks so much. You have a beautiful rest of your day. And then we'll see you on the inside.
sounds great. Thanks, Anna.